Good evening and welcome to Chicago Tonight. I'm Brandis Friedman.
And I'm Paris Schutz. On the show tonight, Interfaith Dialogue is the focus of a summit in Chicago next week. We speak with the founder of Interfaith America on why he says communication among various religions is important.
As monkeypox is declared a public health emergency, we'll talk with the author of a new book about how he believes viruses expose fault lines in society.
Get that feel, that old school feel that brings back that nostalgia that people need.
Avalon Park's iconic roller rink is coming back, newly renovated. What customers can expect and more.
Get that feel, that old school feel that brings back that nostalgia that people need.
Some Chicagoans are beginning to receive payments from the city's Guaranteed Income Pilot Program.
Connecting kids to nature is what the Cook County Forest Preserves aim to do with a set of summer programs. We share the details.
We have a purpose, and it is to help our community.
And coffee, tacos, and art. It's what a local couple is serving from inside a Mexican grocery store.
And as you mentioned, I'm in Avalon Park tonight, live as part of our In Your Neighborhood series. This mostly black Southeast Side community was once home to a lot of German and Swedish immigrants. Now, local hotspots include a nostalgic roller rink, an active chamber of commerce that, by the way, has helped to get some pretty cool murals up around this community area. We'll have much more ahead, but first, back to you.
Amanda, thanks. We look forward to seeing those. And now to some of today's top stories. The federal government has declared monkeypox a public health emergency. Since the first U.S. monkeypox case was identified in mid-May, a total of more than 6,600 cases or probable cases have been detected in every state in the U.S. except two, Montana and Wyoming. Here in Chicago, the Public Health Department says there have been 459 cases with at least one confirmed case in 55 of the city's 77 community areas. CDPH Commissioner Dr. Allison Arwady says she's hoping this federal declaration will mean more support.
The number one thing that is needed, to my mind, is additional doses of vaccine. And I am quite hopeful that with this declaration, we may be able to see some more kind of emergency level action invoking, I don't want to sort of get ahead of the federal government, but similar to what we've seen in COVID, where we've been able to really see more vaccines move more quickly.
Arwady also says that she hopes this federal declaration will mean more money since Chicago has thus far received no federal funding for monkeypox. Meanwhile, Illinois declared a statewide public health emergency earlier this week. And just today, the governor publicly introduced the new director of the Illinois Department of Public Health. Dr. Samir Vora becomes the 20th person to lead the department. Dr. Vora spoke with reporters about some of the challenges that lie ahead in addition to the current pandemic.
Beyond other emerging illnesses like monkeypox, we are challenged with an epidemic of gun violence, a mental health crisis, and a growing national threat to the protection of reproductive rights. It's impossible not to feel the weight of these challenges. But under my leadership, the Department of Public Health will serve the people of Illinois as your resource and as your guide.
Dr. Vora spoke at a news conference where the governor also announced abortion and reproductive health care providers around Illinois will be getting more support from the state. The Medicaid reimbursement rate for abortion services will increase 20%. That increase, which goes into effect September 1st, is intended to let providers recoup more of their costs and provide more care with less financial strain. Additionally, the state is adding another $2 million to the Title X budget, which would expand the networks of clinics that provide reproductive health care. Up next, Amanda Vinicky is in Avalon Park for our In Your Neighborhood series. Stay with us.
Chicago Tonight is made possible in part by Alexandra and John Nichols, the Jim and Kay Mabey family, the Polk Brothers Foundation, and the support of these donors.
In recent weeks, we've visited Fuller Park, Irving Park, Lincoln Park, and Morgan Park as part of our Chicago Tonight In Your Neighborhood series. Today, we're in Avalon Park. Even if you've never visited, chances are likely that you've gone over it. That's because it's right under the Skyway, the toll road that takes you to Indiana. Amanda Vinicky and producer Acacia Hernandez went to the Southeast Side community to learn more, and Amanda is live now from Avalon Park, just outside one of the area's mainstays, Chicago Vocational Career Academy, which boasts as one of its alumni Dick Butkus, I believe. Amanda, what do you got?
Yeah, Paris, we will talk about this unique school later on, but first I want to begin by talking about Avalon Park's, well, Avalon Park, as in the nearly 28-acre park maintained by the Park District. It has a gym, tennis courts, baseball diamonds, and a pool, one of the lucky parks that had pools open at least 5 days a week despite that lifeguard shortage.
Just a wonderful thing to see people in the pool when you walk in the park and just hear the kids screaming and laughing and splashing and just having fun. I love this park because it's a hidden gem. It really is. Once you walk back here, and we try to keep it a secret.
Though Shatreen O'Neal is clearly all right with spilling the beans about her favorite park, she is head of Avalon Park's Advisory Council, which actually formed in 2019, only shortly thereafter to have its big plans scuttled by the pandemic. She has new plans now, really focusing on community partnerships and programming, activities for kids, be it learning about vocations or anti-violence role-playing lessons. Now, when we met O'Neal, she seemed to know everyone at the park since she moved here 18 years ago. O'Neal says she started every morning at the park.
And in the morning, starting at 6 o'clock, really earlier than that, we have the seniors out here who are doing their nature walk. And they're out of here by 8:30. They are creature of habits. Same time, every day, Monday through Friday, no weekends. So it's a beautiful thing.
Also beautiful when the park's cherry blossoms bloom. She wants to plan an event around that as well. I'd love to see it myself, frankly. Now, another big heart of the community, that is its commercial corridor.
I tend to look at a lot of our openings and vacancies as opportunities to really brand and create the community that you want. Everybody has an understanding of what they want a neighborhood to feel like, and Avalon Park is a really great space and opportunity to do that. 79th Street is a main thoroughfare from straight to the lake. That activity, the Obama Library, there's a lot of things happening over here.
Frankie Payne grew up in the area, actually nearby Calumet Heights, and now she is head of the Southeast Chicago Chamber of Commerce. And she is talking about, she says that there are a lot of opportunities, like one day renovating and reopening that 3,000-seat Regal Theater. According to the U.S. Census, about 9,500 people reside in Avalon Park, and roughly 95% of them are black. She says that since George Floyd's murder and the subsequent unrest and the pandemic, those really events brought to light disinvestments and the need for resources in black and brown communities. She says since that time, more city and state grants, including Chicago's Invest Southwest program, have made money available to chambers such as the one that she leads. And that has led the chamber to do more of its work supporting small businesses, like helping mom and pop shops develop websites and point of sale systems, offering security as well as beautification. She says the post-pandemic world and struggles will be an opportunity for the chamber to lean into, to listen, and to offer that help.
We're very lucky that we have a thriving home-owned residence community. And so with that home ownership, there's a long line of people who were here in the 70s and are here now and remember what thriving, bustling corridors they had, and they just miss that and want more of it.
Now, I mentioned beautification. One of the chamber's projects has been supporting murals like the one that was behind Payne as we talked to her, and that is painted by local artist Max Sansing. And you might want to note the 79 on the helmet of that girl in the mural. It's, by the way, for 79th Street. And you can also check out the WTTW News website for an article about Sansing. There's also a mural opposite where we spoke with Payne, and that is done by another Chicago artist who who's gained local, or who is local but has global acclaim. We will be posting a link on our website to a public art tour of Calumet Heights and Avalon Park that is done by the Chamber. Now, for the final stop, however, of our tour today of Avalon Park, well, we rolled into a rink where we met with Ramona Pouncey.
I am one of the owners of the Rink Chicago.
The rink.
The rink. Like the Ohio State. The rink of Chicago. There's no place like it on earth.
Now, Pouncey skated here growing up. She and her husband still do, and they want kids today to do the same. And she says they do.
Now, we have the rink, and we're going, we got to make this into the best, safest place that families can come. Kids can have fun, save lives. We have about 400 kids when we're fully open, 400 young people on a Friday night. 400. That's 400 kids in this building, the youth in this building, doing what they need to do, getting the exercise, loving the music. If they had a hard time, forget about it, leave it outside.
Well, except for right now, the rink has been closed for about 7 months or so while the Pounceys renovate it. They've got fresh coats of purple and orange paint, a refurbished skating floor, and also a really bright, starry, fluorescent carpet. Updates, but Ramona Pouncey says the whole goal is to keep it nostalgic, vintage, and maintain that old school flavor. She is not sure when the rink will reopen, but she says soon. Now, meantime, there are, however, other events going on in Avalon Park, including tomorrow night. The Park District is going to have a movie in the park where they'll be showing the movie King Richard about the Serena tennis champ sisters. And also events coming on in September as well by the Chamber of Commerce. We'll talk about a whole lot more from Avalon Park, including, as promised, more about this school and talking with a local state representative who calls Avalon Park home. But for now, back to you.
Amanda, I know you were having a lot of fun doing laps around that roller rink. We could tell there. All right. Thanks very much.
My legs are sore.
All right. Return those skates, though. All right. And now to Brandis and a look at an upcoming conference here with the goal of bringing people together. Brandis.
That's what we need is Amanda on wheels. Paris, thank you. Next week, Chicago hosts the Interfaith Leadership Summit, which brings students and educators from around the country to the city to, quote, unlock the potential of America's religious diversity. The summit will be led by the founder and president of Chicago-based Interfaith America, who recently authored the book, We Need to Build: Field Notes for Diverse Democracy. And Ibu Patel of Interfaith America joins us now. Ibu, welcome back. Thanks for joining us again. First,
Brandis, always great to be with you. Thank you.
Well, first, of course, tell us, what is the Interfaith Leadership Summit?
The Interfaith Leadership Summit is the place where college students and educators come to learn how to be authors of the next great chapter in the history of religion in America. We are towards the end of the chapter called Judeo-Christian, and we think the next chapter in the great history of American religion should be called Interfaith America. And the college students and educators coming to this summit, run by Interfaith America, are going to help tell the nation that what it really is, who we really are Interfaith America.
And this is the first time you've been able to have this in person in 3 years, right?
That's right. So this is actually the 10th year of the summit. We got creative the past couple of years during COVID. We did it virtually. This year we're creative again. We're doing it hybrid. Really proud that we're going to be beginning a certificate in interfaith leadership at this summit. We have nearly 400 students and educators coming live from about 100 campuses, and we'll have many more online. And you can join online also. If you go to interfaithamerica.org, there are still online registrations available.
So how important is religious pluralism in America right now?
Oh, I mean, it's just essential. The United States is the most religiously diverse nation in human history. We're the most religiously devout nation in the Western Hemisphere. And something like half of our civil society is built by diverse religious communities. So many of those right here in Chicago, DePaul and Loyola University, the Inner City Muslim Action Network, the Jewish Council on Urban Affairs, Fourth Presbyterian Church, all of these great institutions built by religion. Faith has to be a bridge of cooperation. It can never be a barrier of division. But bridges don't fall from the sky or rise from the ground. People build them. and we train those interfaith bridge builders at our Interfaith Leadership Summit coming up in a week.
Now, with calls for Christian nationalism and the general divisiveness that we are all experiencing in our society right now, are you facing an uphill battle?
Actually, I think we are facing an urgent opportunity. We are called to be the great forces of pluralism in America, just like the civil rights heroes of the past, just like the National Conference on Christians and Jews in the 1930s. These people faced down the white Christian nationalists of their era, and they ensured that for their time, the forces of pluralism won. We have to do the same. I have to say, Brandis, we are right on the eve of one of the worst massacres of worshipers in American history, and that is the Oak Creek Gurdwara massacre, which occurred 10 years ago on August 5th, when a white supremacist walked in and killed several Sikhs at worship. And in response, those Sikhs, when the police came to help to stop this white supremacist, they fed those police officers in a Sikh tradition called langar. That beauty of our diverse faiths, that coming together, that widening the community, that's what we need right now. That's why the United States is not a melting pot. We are a potluck nation that welcomes the diverse identities of people of all backgrounds. We want their delicious best dishes. We want to nurture creative combinations so that the whole nation can feast.
Now, all that said, how do you engage people who believe that their religion is the one true faith?
Well, we believe that there's lots of those good folks in the world. There's lots of people who believe that their faith or philosophy has the whole feast. What we say at Interfaith America is the work we do isn't about heaven, it's about earth. It's about building bridges of cooperation on earth. We use what we call a respect, relate, cooperate paradigm. Respect people from diverse religious identities, including the differences you might not like. Relate positively across diverse communities. Cooperate together to serve the common good. A potluck nation is built through this respect, relate, cooperate approach.
Noticing a metaphor, a theme of breaking bread.
Right. All of this is in the book we need to build.
All God's children got to eat. So you'll have many college students attending the summit. Why is it important to engage students?
Well, so many powerful movements have come from college campuses. Civil rights in particular, John Lewis, Diane Nash, these were students on college campuses when they led the sit-in movement. The great Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was a student at Crozer Theological Seminary when he heard a sermon from Mordecai Johnson about Mahatma Gandhi, and he started connecting his Christian faith with Gandhi's Hindu faith. Martin Luther King Jr. was an archetypal interfaith bridge builder. So we think college students and educators have a central role to play. The idealism of young people has got to be put to work to building this 21st century multicultural America. They need to learn, we all need to learn, to defeat the things we do not love by building the things we do.
We've got about 30 seconds left, Ibu, but it sounds like, the summit is also a call to action. You're inviting students and educators to come and learn, but also sending them away, asking them to do things.
That's exactly right. So my terrific colleagues, Latanya Lane, Harmeet Kaur, Morgan Visser, the team that's put this together, the theme they've got is Builders Wanted. One of my favorite tracks at this summit is going to pair progressive campuses like Oberlin with more conservative campuses like Spring Arbor, saying we are better together. Conservatives and progressives, Christians and Muslims, atheists and Zoroastrians, we are better together. We respect, relate, cooperate to build this potluck nation.
All right, that's where we'll have to leave it. Ibu Patel, thanks so much of Interfaith America. Best of luck at the summit next week.
Thanks so much, Brandis.
Viruses don't discriminate. Society does. At least that's the argument made by Northwestern University journalism professor Stephen Thrasher in his new book. Thrasher has long been interested in viruses and their influence in shaping U.S. history. The book is called The Viral Underclass: The Human Toll When Inequality and Disease Collide. Joining us now with more is the author, Stephen Thrasher, and thank you so much, Stephen, for joining us. Of course, before we talk about the book, we have to talk about monkeypox. We know the Biden administration today has declared it a public health emergency, and you recently wrote in the Scientific American that blaming gay men for monkeypox will harm everyone. What should the public health message be here?
Well, now it's really to be getting vaccinations and healthcare to people who have monkeypox and getting vaccines to men who have sex with men. When I wrote that piece, I thought to write it when I was walking by the Congress Hotel in Michigan, and I was getting ready to have the international Mr. Leather competition. And I thought this is one of the events that the Biden administration and public health people should be using to go vaccinate for this virus, which we knew was circulating amongst men who have sex with men in other countries. And the administration took a wait and see approach and let it get out of control. So it's a much more difficult thing to deal with now, but we really need to first focus on getting vaccines to the population that's most at risk, and those are men who have sex with men, and then also getting economic help to people who need to quarantine. If someone has it, they have to quarantine for a month, and not many people in Chicago can afford to go without a month's salary if they cannot go into their work and do face-to-face work. So those are kind of the two fastest things that need to happen right now.
Of course, you know, in a time when nuance is often lacking, there's nothing biological about, you know, men who have sex with men that means they get the monkeypox. But right now, as you said, this is the group of people who are most at risk. So how do you avoid, you know, further stigmatizing gay men when crafting this public health message?
Well, I personally, and I had a piece in The Guardian about this week, think that we need to name how it's happening and who it's happening to. And there is actually reason to believe from research that came out of London last week, and also research that was done in Nigeria 5 years ago in an outbreak there, that there's been a significant mutation in monkeypox such that it's presenting and transmitting differently. Over the past many decades, it's had lesions primarily on hands, feet, back, and face. Now we're seeing very much lesions around genital areas for men who have sex with men. And there's reason to believe that it's perhaps transmitting through fluids, through sexual fluids. So more research needs to be done about that. And the way that I deal with it, and I think public health people should, is to just address that, not have any embarrassment about it, and realize that men who have sex with men need care and good health care, and to do the research that needs to be done. There are other ways that it can transmit, but right now with this version of monkeypox, 95 to 99% is circulating in one community. So that's where our care, concern, and research and resources need to be right now.
So your new book, it's titled The Viral Underclass. Who are the viral underclass?
The viral underclass are people who end up in the pathway of viruses again, and become the most sick with it and are the most likely to die from it. It's an international phenomenon, but I think one dimension of it that also is particular to the United States is that when you become infected by a virus, not only is there stigma, but you're also economically punished. Like I was saying, people who have to quarantine for monkeypox are being told by the state they have to stay at home, but they're not being economically supported. And they're staying at home for their own well-being, but for all of our well-being. And so we should be supporting them. So that's one way a viral underclass is made. The other way I really kind of understood it was that we'll see very different viruses with very different characteristics. Monkeypox, HIV, hepatitis, SARS-CoV-2, the novel coronaviruses, these are all quite different viruses. They move differently, they transmit differently, but they end up in the bodies of people who are poor, marginalized, migrant, trans, non-white, again and again, sometimes in very surprising ways that we wouldn't think that one kind of virus would end up in the same kind of people, but they keep ending up in the same population. And that's because of all these social vectors that put people's bodies in the pathway of viruses and also make their bodies more susceptible to not being able to fight off infection and to become seriously ill.
So I want to get to a little bit about those social vectors. You write about 12 of them, and you devote a chapter to each. I won't go through all of them. Viewers can see them on the screen, but they include capitalism and racism, among others. What would you say are some of the most important social vectors that produce a viral underclass?
Well, one, capitalism, and it's also related to austerity, which I started seeing in other countries. When governments, I started actually seeing this when I was doing research in Greece. It was outside of the United States, and Greece had an economic crash. Prior to that, they've had extremely good HIV prevention through doing street work, going out to people who are dealing with addiction on the streets and getting sterile syringes to them. And when their economic crash came and the EU took over, they cut all those services. And so suddenly, HIV increased within just a couple of years by 3,000% in that country. So capitalism and austerity will create conditions where things we could do to keep viruses out of people really swamp them and harm them. And another one that I deal with a lot in the book is ableism, the ways that we we punish people who are sick and put a lot of responsibility on them they shouldn't have. And we've sadly seen this with these past two presidential administrations. Obviously, Donald Trump put his foot on the pedal of a lot of irresponsible activities around COVID, but also Joe Biden right now is in his rebound infection, and he keeps trying to say, I'm going to power through it, I'm going to get through it, and that's not the right message that we should be giving to people right now. When people are sick with COVID, they should be supported in staying home. They should be able to rest as much as possible because that keeps them it makes them less likely to get long COVID. But ableism tries to teach us that being sick is weak and being strong means that you'll get over it. And that's not a recipe for good public health.
Yeah, you write a good bit about sort of the emphasis on individual responsibility and sort of finding the patient zero over the collective responsibility and the societal governmental responsibility. Before we run out of time, though, Professor, as someone, you've long studied the impact of HIV/AIDS, and when you look at the public health response to this pandemic, what are the most important lessons that you think have been learned for how to respond to this pandemic and the next one?
Well, unfortunately, I think we haven't learned that we need to keep working at this collectively. And at an infrastructure level, it's interesting in Chicago, as you and your viewers probably know, Streeterville, much of downtown Chicago was completely raised and lifted up, and sewage was put in. The direction of the river was reversed to deal with cholera at the end of the 19th century. Nothing on that scale has been done with COVID-19 in terms of ventilation and sort of public infrastructure. That's a lesson that we haven't learned. The lesson I think that's most valuable from viruses is they prove to us again and again that we're connected. We can pretend like we're not, but the viruses will betray that. They show that when we breathe, when we touch each other, when we're near each other, we're sharing our genetic material. And so to be able to deal with that effectively, we have to work with one another in an interdependent way and put aside the idea that everyone's on their own independent journey. That's the best lesson I think that viruses can teach us. And the last pandemic gave us many opportunities to learn that, and it's continuing to give us opportunities to learn that.
All right, we'll have to leave it there. Stephen Thrasher, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
And once again, the book is called The Viral Underclass, The Human Toll When Inequality and Disease Collide. Up next, we introduce you to a couple that's taking entrepreneurship to the next level. Stay with us.
Much of the story of Latinos in America is that of entrepreneurship. About 5 million Latino-owned businesses currently exist in the U.S.
Predominantly Latino communities often bear the environmental burden of heavy industry. Residents of those communities say they have a hard time making their concerns heard.
A Chicago-based photographer has a personal understanding of immigration, and he has spent years documenting small businesses.
The forces of gentrification can make people being priced out of their neighborhoods feel powerless. But the founders of Lolita's Bodega say residents have more power than they think.
There's a lot more ahead on the program, including more from Avalon Park as part of our In Your Neighborhood series. But first, the COVID-19 pandemic has been far from easy for many small businesses. A lot of them have had to get creative and reinvent themselves to stay afloat. Chicago Tonight's Joanna Hernandez heads to a grocery store in Waukegan, serving more than fresh produce.
What's up? How's it going?
Adam Carson and Nidia Gonzalez are the owners of Supermercado Gonzalez.
Hey, how are you?
It's a Mexican supermarket that Nidia's parents opened in the 90s. About 2 years ago, the married couple took over management during the pandemic.
I loved growing up with my parents and in this store, just living a very entrepreneurial life at a very young age. Like, I remember one of my biggest first purchases was piñatas.
The grocery store is only one part of their journey. When customers make their way towards the back of the store, they'll find a coffee shop that Carson runs called Drip and Culture.
The fact that this is a black and brown owned coffee shop, like in the suburbs in Lake County, it's just a really incredibly different experience, right? We cannot underscore that enough. There's not a lot of us.
It's not where you'll typically find a coffee shop.
You can do that at ice store.
But the owners say it's part of their rebranding and bringing new collaborative energy to the store.
My dad always says, like, hay que darle sangre nueva, which is like you got to give it new blood, you got to give it love. Like, a business needs attention and love and, all of these things. And so us coming back and doing all of these changes really helped to, add some vibrance to the store.
Along with coffee, Nidia recently opened a boutique and art studio on the second floor called Gather, where she's hosted yoga among other classes.
For me, it's a community. It's a community center, kind of. You know, it's a place for people to come in and gather around similar interests, you know, the love of cute stuff, the love of art, the love of hand making, and it's just a place for people to come in and learn those things. Look at this beautiful bracelet that we're making together. I wanted this to be a safe place that people can come to and be vulnerable. Share in this space, you know, what it means to be a Latina, what it means not quite so Mexican, not quite so American.
All right, y'all have a great one, all right?
The evolution of the store is part of a bigger mission for the Carsons, a space where other entrepreneurs also have a chance to learn and showcase their passions.
For us, it's very much about how do we take our experience in corporate and bring that into the day-to-day operations, but also bring it into how we think about running this business and how we think about teaching others in the community how they run their business as well.
Eres lo máximo, Benja.
El máximo de todo, ¿eh? No digas nada, no que es un secreto.
One of their latest ventures is the creation of Entrepreneurs Collective, a program aimed at supporting people who want to open a business.
And we're going to bring in subject matter experts to talk about like pricing strategies and web design and product placement and marketing and all those things that these guys need to really form the foundation for a solid business.
As the couple continues to evolve their business, their goal remains the same, to make an impact on the community.
It's a multi-level experiential place where you'll be immersed in like different cultures and have like a really great experience. I don't know the word.
It's a melting pot.
I mean, melting pot
is a whole melting pot in one building.
For Chicago Tonight, I'm Joanna Hernandez.
Beautiful.
And to learn more about the coffee shop or the art studio, you can head over to our website. And still to come on Chicago Tonight, we're one-on-one with Avalon Park State Representative Marcus Evans to talk about a recently passed clean energy bill and much more. Connecting kids to nature, it's what the Cook County Forest Preserves aim to do with a set of summer programs. We share details. And some Chicagoans are starting to see payments from the city's Guaranteed Income Pilot Program. Community partners share their hopes for the initiative. But first, some more of today's top stories. A Northwest suburban bakery will go ahead with events in its shop after all. The ACLU announces that Uprising Bakery has reached an agreement with officials in suburban Lake in the Hills to hold events that it previously had to cancel. It's the latest twist in the saga involving the bakery that was vandalized and received hate mail after it scheduled a family-friendly drag show. Just last week, the village said the bakery could not go forward with any further events because it violated a zoning ordinance. But the current agreement says the bakery can now move forward in accordance with local zoning laws. Chicago's big city neighbor to the north is set to host the Republican National Convention. That's according to multiple reports. Those reports indicate the Republican Party is set to announce tomorrow that it is hosting the 2024 nominating convention in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. This comes as Illinois Democratic leaders are angling to have the Democratic Party host its convention here in Chicago. Milwaukee hosted a scaled-down version of the DNC in 2020 during the height of the coronavirus pandemic. WNBA star Brittany Griner is sentenced to 9 years in Russian prison. A Russian court issued the verdict today against Griner for entering the country with cannabis vape cartridges. Griner is also ordered to pay the equivalent of $16,000 US. President Joe Biden immediately issued a statement calling the sentence, quote, unacceptable, and called on Russia to release Griner immediately. The U.S. State Department has said Griner is being wrongfully detained and has been reportedly negotiating a prisoner swap deal to bring Griner back to the U.S. The Chicago Cubs are headed overseas, not permanently, but just to play 2 games in London against the St. Louis Cardinals as part of the London series in 2023. The series was first set to take place back in 2020, but got canceled due to COVID. The games will now take place a little less than a year from now, June 24th and 25th of next season. And now, Brandis, we toss it back to you.
Paris, thank you. Now back to Amanda Vinicky, who spent the day in Avalon Park as part of our In Your Neighborhood series. Amanda.
Hey, Brandis, I'm going to be joined by State Representative Marcus Evans. Now, he grew up on the southeast side here and is now a bungalow to be particular, bungalow owner here in Avalon Park. So thank you so much for joining us, Representative Evans. For starters, you, again, grew up around the area,
Yes,
but
yes.
it's set to see some changes with the Obama Presidential Center coming nearby. What does this community need, or should it have, to take advantage of that development?
Yeah, well, the Obama Library is in the Woodlawn Hyde Park community, but the Obama Library is a regional project. It's a full Southside project. The Southside loves Barack Obama. We love President Obama. And we want to see improvements all along Stony Island because, of course, we're going to get the traffic. Traffic is coming. People are coming from around the world. So we want to make sure that the residents of Avalon Park have safety along Stony Island and, of course, continue to see that avenue beautified along with the Obama Library. So we want to be included for sure in the development.
Including the Skyway, of course, goes sort of above Avalon Park.
Yeah.
You believe that more could be done with that, right?
Yeah, more exits. I think the Skyway is an underutilized asset. You know, we paid for it, and of course we sold it. So it's still connected to the city. So I'm hoping that the mayor and the leadership here can do more with the Skyway because Avalon Park will be a big beneficiary, especially when the Obama Library is really up and running.
Skyway, you're saying, like, what, get money from it? There's this 99-year lease that it's been sold, and so more money from it, or people exiting to come and spend their dollars here?
Yeah, it's utilization. You know, if you got a road there, let's make it easily accessible and usable for the people. It's really expensive to get on the Skyway, so it's not feasible for everyday usage. It's like $5 to utilize it every day, and people can't afford that. So maybe figure out how we can bring the costs down. I think intelligent folks can come up with a great idea.
The cost down, perhaps, for people who live in the area or the zip codes surrounding it, or something along those lines. What? Now, you just came back from the National Conference of State Legislators. Thank you. I think you flew back and able to join us in part. We appreciate that as well. Illinois has quite the reputation in a lot of ways. So what were the main topics as you met with legislators from across the country? Yeah,
when you think about state government, it's a people business. It's all about health care, it's all about transportation, and how we work with the federal government. The states want to have the power to help folks, and we do a lot to help people. We send money down to the state, to the cities. We send a lot of money to the city of Chicago. So just talking about best practices and how we can serve people. This is one country. We got 50 states, 50 different ideas, but it's all love and it's all service.
So what's the big idea that you're coming home with?
Probably, how we just better utilize the dollars that we have. It's really about fiscal responsibility. Every dollar that comes to the state of Illinois should be utilized and invested, not just to pay the bills, but pay the bills in an intelligent way.
And of course, one of the big topics that a lot of folks are talking about is abortion, particularly given the Dodd's ruling. There was supposed to be a special session on that. Still hasn't happened. When is it going to? When will Illinois be poised to pass legislation with the Democratic supermajorities the General Assembly has? Yeah, well, again, we have the governor, we have Senator Don Harmon and Speaker West. They're going to come together to figure out that path. I think as a member and myself, I want to do something, and I'm ready to do something, and I support women's rights. It's common sense for me. We didn't talk about it a lot at NCSL because it's kind of a partisan issue, but I think the ruling in Kansas made it crystal clear that our belief is correct. Women want to make decisions for their own bodies. I have no problem with that. I support that. And we, of course, will be covering that on Chicago Tonight, but for this night, we thank you very much for joining us. Again, that is Avalon Park resident and homeowner, State Representative Marcus Evans. Back to you.
Amanda, thank you. And now to Paris for details about a set of programs focused on nature conservation. Paris.
Brandis, the next generation of environmental stewards might come from a forest near you. That is, any one of the Cook County forest preserves. That's thanks to a set of programs centered on restoration and maintenance for adults and kids. WTTW News reporter Patty Wetley joins us now to explain. All right, so Patty, tell us what's offered through the Cook County Forest Preserves.
Right. Well, there are their basic volunteer opportunities, but these are their Conservation Corps programs. One is for youth, so high school students, not necessarily kids. Another is for adults, and another is in partnership with the Housing Authority of Cook County. And, these are paid conservation positions, kind of like what they're proposing on the federal level as a new sort of civilian conservation corps. So there's lots of opportunities for people to get involved.
And so what are the skills that kids and adults walk away with?
Yeah, you will learn how to use saws and loppers to get rid of the dreaded buckthorn invasive species. You might be building fences, maintaining or repairing trails. The folks I talked to said obviously they learn teamwork and communication skills and problem solving and thinking, but you also get a great experience in nature, getting up close with wildlife, and you will definitely learn to identify poison ivy, they tell me.
Oh, that's a good skill to have.
Yes.
And there's an obvious payoff here for the forest preserves, correct?
Right. I mean, they don't have enough staff to maintain 70,000 acres. So this is a great way. Again, these are paid positions, but they are adding to their labor force. And it's also introducing people to the Cook County Forest Preserves that might not be that familiar with the amazing nature that's right in our backyard. And the hope is to sort of build this next generation of people who fall in love with and want to preserve and guard and steward the forest preserves.
All right, we're running up against the end of the season now, so how do folks get involved for next year?
Yeah, we have a link in the website, in the article, to the programs. And yeah, they just had graduation today for one of the programs, literally. So you'll be wanting to look in the spring for when they start to take applications for these programs.
All right, Patty Wetley, thank you so much.
Thanks, Paris.
And you can read Patty's full story on our website. It's all at WTTW.com/news. And up next, checking in with Chicago's Guaranteed Income Pilot Program. That's in a conversation that first aired on Chicago Tonight, Black Voices. But first, we take a look at the weather.
Both Chicago and Cook County are in the process of launching guaranteed income programs that'll provide more than 8,000 residents with $500 a month, no strings attached. While applications for Cook County residents open in the fall, the residents chosen for Chicago's Resilient Communities program have already started to receive those monthly payments. According to city data, 176,000 people applied for the program. Of those applicants, 64% live below the poverty line. 68% identify as Black or African American. 70% of applicants identified as a woman. 17% cited having a disability. And 9% indicated that they're housing insecure or homeless. Here with more on the challenges of implementing a guaranteed income program and how recipients will benefit are Audra Wilson, President and CEO of the Shriver Center on Poverty Law, Brandy Kanazi, Commissioner of the Chicago Department of Family and Support Services, and Nicole Robinson, CEO at YWCA Metro Chicago. Thanks to the three of you for joining us again. Commissioner Kanazi, remind us who's eligible for this program and what has the process been up to this point?
So residents who are 18 years or older live in Chicago and earn 250% below the poverty line or less and can demonstrate a COVID-19 negative impact were eligible for the program.
Audra Wilson, a big point of emphasis was that this cash comes with no strings attached. Why is that important?
So direct cash payments, as this is, makes such a considerable difference to families. It gives individuals the agency to invest in what's best for their needs, whether they're starting a business or keeping a roof over their heads or feeding their families or caring for children. And the flexibility of the cash transfer is significant because with no strings attached, this is very different than many existing social safety net programs that have work requirements or can suddenly eliminate assistance when individuals receive any modest increase in income. So the flexibility is a very important factor in this program.
Nicole Robinson, describe how the YWCA performed outreach for this pilot.
Yes, Brandis, this was one of the most exciting parts of the program because for me, this was all about equity, accessibility, and impact. And there's so many residents across Chicago who, even before the pandemic, have been coping with job loss, with food insecurity, with housing insecurity, with lots of challenges with childcare, and that is stressful. And what this program does is not just fill the gaps in those areas, but actually provide some relief. So in terms of outreach, we were in the community, boots on the ground, and had a coalition of hundreds of partners across this city, all committed and unified under this one idea of making sure residents were aware. So that means we were in churches and faith institutions, we were in barbershops, we were in laundromats, we were going door to door, working with lots of partners to spread the word. I think the great thing about this partnership with the city, multi-language, Chinese, Arabic, Spanish, Polish, there were ways you could communicate in a way that made sense for community members. It was online and accessible. I want to say that it maybe took 20 minutes or less to complete that application. So the team did a great job to make it easy and flexible. But then we also had individuals and volunteers in the community ready at libraries, at schools, at other places where communities are, where they trust people to share information, because trust was a really important piece about this that we thought about clearly, to make sure that residents were willing to apply, were aware. And as I recall, the first couple of weeks, there was a big rush of applications that came in. So we feel really good about the fact that that happened. And just to comment on the impact part, I'd say that the people who were enrolled in this process are people who really needed it.
Commissioner Kanazi, what are some of those critical details that you had to consider in order to get people the funds?
So one of the first things we wanted to do is make sure that the program targeted caregivers and parents. We know that during the pandemic, many individuals had to step away from their regular duties to stay at home, to do online learning, or take care of their loved ones. And so that was really important for us. We also wanted to make sure, to Nicole's point, that, you know, that first day, media really helped get the word out, but we knew that besides that, there were, you know, hard to reach populations that we wanted to impact. So we wanted to make sure those who were undocumented, or domestic workers, or people who didn't speak English as their first language, that we really got to them. You know, we thought about, like, how do we reach those who are returning residents or veterans? You know, there was a lot of distrust from government. And so we wanted to make sure that there were trusted messengers in community that could get the word out. The other thing that we really thought about was just about the benefits cliff. We didn't want someone to say, you know what, I could use $500, but I'm on another, you know, social service program. And so I don't want to lose my SNAP benefits or my SSI. And so our team lobbied really well and hard, I would say, that we got a waiver for SSI and for SNAP. And just to kind of put that in perspective, 56% of those who applied also had SNAP benefits. And so that's just striking. Of had we not done that, what we learned is other cities, you know, excluded those populations because they didn't want them to be negatively impacted. The other thing was just really about, you know, ease of use. To Nicole's point, you know, individuals could complete, you know, an application on their tablet. And so we just really wanted to make sure that we had a process that was inclusive and that people wouldn't have to come back a second or a third time.
And I'm sure, like, making sure that folks don't fall off of another benefit is an important consideration. Audra Wilson, you've said that this program can help advance the cause of social and racial justice. Briefly explain how that works for us.
Sure. So the concept of guaranteed income has been championed by civil rights leaders for decades, including Dr. King himself, as a solution to address racial and economic justice. And this is a very bold but simple approach to combating poverty and reducing economic insecurity. And as you've heard all of us saying, existing social safety nets, they can be difficult to navigate. And it's especially true for Black women who face greater economic challenges, as well as greater barriers when seeking support. So across the country, these pilots have that offered a guaranteed income have measurably improved people's financial stability. But I think it's important to note that launching this pilot in the third largest city in the country, concurrent with the Cook County Promise Guaranteed Income Pilot, which is launched in the second most populous county in the country, is extraordinarily significant, because these joint pilots can promote the national dialogue about guaranteed income and can help to craft broader national initiatives.
Nicole Robinson, we've got just a few seconds left, but what's the level of need that you see among the families that you serve?
I see it. I've seen it in the residents who have come in to apply, and Brandy and Audra both mentioned domestic workers and home health aides, and I was able to meet some of the women who came in, and their income had been disrupted during the pandemic. They're caregivers, they're taking care of children, not being able to make rent. And what I've learned about these income programs is that they really do make a difference and an impact, and studies show that It relieves stress for families, health and well-being improves, their stability. Families are able to put a little money away and save. So that is tremendous when you think about economic and financial stability.
And we absolutely.
So I'm excited about the promise of this program as it continues to roll out.
Yeah, we look forward to covering this further down the road as well, both across Chicago and Cook County, as we see how it supports people and how it works, what your metrics of success are. But we'll have to leave it there for now. Brandy Kanazi, Arja Wilson, and Nicole Robinson, thank you all for joining us.
Thank you.
Back with more Chicago Tonight right after this.
And now we check back in with Amanda Vinicky, who has spent the day in Avalon Park as part of our In Your Neighborhood series. Amanda.
Yeah, Paris, earlier you mentioned football great Dick Butkus, also comedian Bernie Mac. Once walked the school halls of this building behind me. That is the Chicago Career Academy, or Chicago Vocational High School. I spoke earlier today with Principal Douglas Macklin, and students will be back walking these hallways August 22nd, and I asked them what they can expect, particularly amid a still ongoing pandemic.
Let me tell you, this summer we had over 500 students in out-of-school time OST just in our building alone. So we did our part to support the district initiative of keeping our kids occupied with positive things to do and get paid from it. From being enrichment programs to credit recovery, you name it, our kids had an opportunity, 500 of them, to be engaged and off the streets here at Chicago Vocational.
Now, vocational is in the high school's name. What sort of vocational training is going on now? Might some be returning?
Well, you know, we're very unique here. We are the only school in the district that is early college, STEM, and have career and technical educational programming. So we have from IT, information technology, cosmetology, culinary, diesel, med tech, horticulture. I mean, you name it, we have an offering. We have such a diverse offering for our students. So we're really excited to continue that, as well as some new opportunities engaging with partners that are coming in. We have a Regal Mile Studio that's promising a workforce development program in the areas of radio, television, and film and animation. And so we're trying to figure out
career area.
Absolutely. That we're going to train some kids to come in and come after you with that. But those work training opportunities are so important because it's revitalizing our school. Our enrollment, our freshman enrollment alone has increased over 60% this year. Because of this.
And what do you attribute that? Because also, this is a huge school. I think once it had what?
Over 5,000.
4,000, 5,000?
Yes.
So
yeah.
You're up to what, about 700, but...
Yeah, so last year we had about 630 students. This year we are poised to have over 700. And so one of the things is about restoring the pride. So it was one of the things my alumni was very stressed when I first came on to say, what is your plan to increase enrollment and get the school back to its glory days? So that's exciting because we're on that path. We are strategically leveraging our partnerships from Dale, Lumity. We have a new program that's coming in, Icon, which is I Can Overcome Negativity, which is the apparel line. They're going to not only provide clothing for our students, but with a positive message that we can overcome our negative circumstance. We can be better than what we are.
Is that a budgetary concern, though, with such a drop off from 4,000, 5,000 down to 600, even 700? Concern?
Well, you know, that's a trend that's going all over the city. So it's not just a Chicago vocational issue. However, I will say the district has been very supportive in making sure we had a number of employees and staff to cover our students, that we're not having a mass exodus of programs and offerings. And we have an opportunity to, again, continue to bring and create new programs at our school. So we are still winning here. We have that saying, at CVS we win, well, we definitely are.
And then final question, this is of course not only a big structure, but a gorgeous one.
Yes.
What is the status of attempts to preserve it with historic landmark status?
You know, I would say, you know, the district is constantly taking in new ideas from all of our stakeholders of how we can restore the pride back to the palace. They used to call this the palace, the V. And so any of those type of conversations and talks is always a good thing. We have a community meeting in which we're going to engage our community stakeholders, parents, students, alumni. Come in, let's talk about how do we achieve the goal of restoring the pride at the palace, right? So communication talks are still underway, and so when we figure out exactly what the community wants to do with our school and how they can help support us, then we can finalize that answer to that question.
And speaking of support, you may have noticed that hallway of pennants. There's another hallway with school flags as well. That represents all of the schools and colleges where last year's graduating seniors were accepted. He says there was a 17% hike from the year prior, with more than 87% of the Chicago Vocational Career Academy's seniors being accepted to post-grad studies. With that, back to you.
All right, congratulations to all of them. And that is a principal that loves his job. That's great. And we're back to wrap things up right after this.
Chicago Tonight is made possible in part by Alexandra and John Nichols, the Jim and Kay Mabey family, the Polk Brothers Foundation, and the support of these donors.
And that's our show for this Thursday night. Don't forget to stay connected with us by signing up for our daily briefing. And you can get Chicago Tonight streamed on Facebook, YouTube, and our website, WTTW.com/news.
You can also get the show via podcast and the PBS video app. And please join us tomorrow night at 7 for the Weekend Review. Now, for all of us here at Chicago Tonight, I'm Brandis Friedman.
And I'm Paris Schutz. Thank you for watching. Stay healthy and safe, and have a great evening.
Closed captioning is made possible by Robert A. Clifford and Clifford Law Offices, a Chicago personal injury and wrongful death firm, and proud sponsor of programming that offers